Not a lot of people have that mindset. Sometimes when they overthink about the bad experiences that they've gone through, it holds them back to becoming even better.
Working under incompetent versus the better or competent leaders, what would you say makes the difference between those two?
When your team trusts you, you create this supportive atmosphere by actively practicing behaviors that builds trust. And you don't want to be seen as a leader who is very inconsistent. You're telling them, oh, I will help you, I will do this, I will do that, but then you do something else. Now you're losing their trust.
How do we build that trust and belief within ourselves as the leader with our team?
Being a leader, you can't expect a leader to be perfect all the time. You can't. When you lead by example, you inspire others to be, you need to accept change. Some people are so scared when change happens because they're uncomfortable. Train your mind to see good in every situation. Whatever you do, show up with a positive attitude. Show up anyway with the biggest smile.
How do we bring morale up in a team when there is no morale to begin with?
At the end of the day, people need to understand that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindset Journaling podcast. Here we deep dive into the unique minds of our incredible guests, uncovering insights and experiences that will help inspire you and elevate your mindset. Today we'll be discussing about leadership and how to create lasting influence around those around you. Charlotte, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Charlotte. I am a regional manager for a company. We have a few locations around the GTA. And honestly, leadership, I never thought I'd get into this position until I was exposed to it. Based on the experiences I've had, I've experienced a lot of like working under leaders who were not reliable. And of course, I didn't want the team that I was leading to go through what I went through under someone who is incompetent in their role.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, during my experiences, there were a lot of ups and downs, but hey, I'm only human. And, as long as you're being mindful and aware of your words and action goes a long way.
All right, Char, I wanted to dive into the first question I want to ask you today. In your personal experience, what has been the worst experience of leadership and the best example of leadership that you've had in your life? And what separated the good from the bad?
Oh, we're starting in that that topic.
That topic.
I wouldn't say I've experienced worse. I'm at this point where these experiences are just another lesson where I could learn from and apply it.
Okay.
And of course, working under leaders who are incompetent in their role is very frustrating.
Oh, 100%, yes.
Very frustrating. But for me, I just see it as an opportunity to be better than them.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to best experiences I've had, same thing applies. I would say that it's another lesson that I want to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
Replicate, and of course, maintain it, because maintaining something good is always the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you maintain something that is good, you want to make it even better, not for yourself, but for your team as well.
Yeah, makes sense. In your definition, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership is the ability to influence and inspire others towards a common goal. And of course, leading by example is such a very, what do you call it? Like good model or standard to stand by. Mm-hmm. Just because when you lead by example, you inspire others to be like you. Like if you have, if you're very disciplined and your team can see that,
They'll replicate it.
they'll
So they'll replicate your good habits.
yes.
Leadership versus management.
Mm-hmm.
You can say they're kind of almost the same, or they're kind of almost. There's a fine line between leadership and management, or a leadership versus a boss.
Mm-hmm.
What makes someone of that role a leader versus what makes them a boss?
They're related, but not the same.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you're like a boss, you kind of have like anything that you have to do, be it task or priority, it's more of like the company's structure. Like it's based on that. But if you're a leader, you're focused on inspiring, influencing, dealing with more team dynamics
Mm-hmm.
than the boss. Because the boss is like, oh, get this done. That's it.
Yeah.
But if you're a leader, you kind of lead them.
You kind of actually care for your people in a sense where bosses just want to get things done.
Yes.
Got you. Working under incompetent versus the better or competent leaders. What would you say makes the difference between those two? What makes a leader incompetent versus what makes someone competent or good in leadership?
I would say there's a lot. Like, for example, adaptability, integrity,
That's a big one.
communication, empathy, decisiveness. Those are like very good. But then, being a leader, you can't expect a leader to be perfect all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. But as long as you're aware of these things and you're being mindful of how you're using these skills, your team can use, what the hell is this word? Like, they can, like, when they see it and then they,
Implement?
like, they start implementing it.
Uh-huh.
Because they're like, oh, my leader is doing this. I really like it. Like, let me implement these skills.
Uh-huh. You talked about empathy.
Yeah.
How does empathy play a role in leadership? When you say empathy, are you meaning like you are being mindful, you care for the people that are under you or you're working with, versus a boss who has no empathy, who just wants to get work done, tasks done, no matter the feelings or thoughts of their employees?
What I mean by empathy is that, we're humans,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, it's easy for us to be like, hey, just do your job. But everyone goes through something, and a little bit of like empathy just by like being accommodating,
Mm-hmm.
being like understanding your team's like
How they work, their dynamic.
how they work,
how
their
they think.
dynamic, and just accommodating in general, because everyone works or learn things differently, and if you're able to accommodate that, you're one, you're like, you're doing good. So
No, that makes sense, 100%. Everyone learns things differently, 100%. I agree. I get that. That's probably one of the biggest things about leadership or learning how to teach people for me is that everybody learns things very differently.
Yeah.
Right? For me, for example, how I like to learn is visually. So I need to see it. I see an example, like you said, a role model, a good example of how to do it. And as well as you need to be as straightforward as with me as possible. Like if you think I suck, just tell me I suck. It's
Yeah.
okay. And I think the hard part for me being put in those positions of leadership in my life is that I can't expect everyone that I'm teaching or I'm talking to to have that level of tolerance or have that same learning style as me. So I'll give an example. So I used to supervise at this restaurant, and obviously as a supervisor, I am the manager of the day, right? So there would be times where obviously there's new people. There's times when there's people who are not being at their best, slacking off, and there's times where it's just not the greatest, let's just say, right? Had many talks, had to talk to many people, and I've learned that through myself and through others that being straightforward with some people might work, but it might not work with everyone. If I went to person A and I told them, hey, you're not doing your job properly, could you stop talking so much? Could we get the job done? They'd be like, okay, immediately. They change their behavior, right? I might talk to person B who is a little bit more sensitive now or is going through something. And it's, if I say, hey, can you stop talking? Can you let's get things going? It might be a little bit, they would seem as insensitive or they would take it the wrong way where they think I'm being mean. Would I just really want all of us to thrive in that situation, right? So I think empathy goes a long way, and learning how different people react to different situations, I would say, is a big thing to leadership. A question for you now, though, is, in your opinion, Char, with that example being said, how important is trust in following a leader? And how do we build that trust and belief within ourselves as the leader with our team?
When your team trusts you, you create this supportive atmosphere, environment, and your team is more willing to give you feedback. And of course, as a leader, you need to have a strong foundation by actively practicing behaviors that builds trust.
Give me an example of one.
So, which is like consistency.
Okay.
Right? You can't just say, oh, do this, do that, but you do other things.
So not being true to your word?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Building trust is kind of similar to do to others as you would want them do to you, right?
Yes.
Like the golden rule. So you can't just say something and do something else.
Oh, 100%. Because then it's not true to your character. You're not true to what you're trying to set as an example. Right?
Exactly. And it's just inconsistent.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be seen as a leader who is very inconsistent. Because what if, I don't know, they want to deal with a sensitive subject and you're telling them, oh, I will help you, I will do this, I will do that, but then you do something else. Now you're losing their trust.
You talked about environment. How important is creating a positive environment in your workplace?
It's very important, for sure. You can be as accommodating, you can be the nicest manager, but at the end of the day, people need to understand that we're running a business.
Yeah, people need to understand that, yeah.
And there's a certain limit of how accommodating and understanding we can be. Because if we're just going to be super nice, or you can have a time off here, time off there, who's going to be working? Right? And then sometimes people will actually label you as a pushover because you're so accommodating.
Never thought about that.
Right? And then if you say, if you're a bad manager, if you say a bad manager, then people are just going to be like, oh, yeah, I quit this and that. But there's pros and cons between being too nice and I think you just need to be in between.
It's a hard balance, though.
Definitely a hard balance.
It's definitely a hard balance.
But hey, you can't make anyone happy.
Yeah.
Right? Because whatever decision you make, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get offended. Right? But at the end of the day, managers, bosses, they just do their job. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. Like, if we think that it's the best decision, someone will just get hurt and say, "Oh, these people are bad."
And then, yeah, no, 100%. Like, and then sometimes it could just spiral into a negative environment, and then that brings the morale down, right? I worked in an environment where the morale was very down and very low, and that was a very, very tough time, but very character building, but a very tough time. How do we bring morale up in a team when there is no morale to begin with?
I mean, as a leader, you have to show up. Even though you don't know what the heck is going on, you have to pretend you know what you're doing. Because no one knows what's going on in your head, but you got to fake it till you make it, right? And whenever you want to try to boost a morale, you have to tackle what the problem is first. Is it staffing? Is it management? Or is it like guess? I don't know. But the first thing that you need to do is tackle the problem. And once you tackle it, it's like smooth sailing from there. But for example, if it's like staffing issue, you need to reassure your team that everything's going to be okay.
That's a big one. Reassurance. Yeah.
Reassurance, because everyone's panicking. Oh yeah, we're understaffed. We're this, we're that. What's happening? You just need to reassure them everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Only I handle it. I'm the only one that is allowed to stress. Don't stress. I will stress for you. I just need you to do this and this and this. That's it.
Going back to your point of being a good leader, being a good example. In my personal experience, where I tell everyone this, it's if you're in a leadership position or if you're the one people look up to, like you said, no matter what, you have to show up. Show up for yourself, show up for them, because at the end of the day, people don't listen to you, but they always are watching what you do, right? And that's a massive thing that I have to learn as well, is that people can just talk. Talking is very easy. Action is a whole different ball game, right? And back in the day when I was supervising and running around doing things, there are times when, for example, if we're going back to morale is low. No one wants to work, and it comes to a time where it's like some people just show up because they don't want to be marked as absent or no show. And then let's say they do the bare minimum. Let's say a complaint happens and they don't even want to even attempt to deal with it, right? So those are things you have to deal with as a leader. And I tell everyone this, that if your team is not putting in the work, you have to be the one to put in the work, even if your team is not putting in the work. Because at the end of the day, if there is no inspiration, if there is no one to look up to, your team or the people you're working with, it's just a negative cycle.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Sometimes, some people don't want to do it, but like I said earlier, you have to pretend that you also like it, like doing it. And that's just leading by example, right? Oh, I love serving guests. I love doing this. I love cleaning up the tables. Whatever you do, show up with a positive attitude. Because everything's going down, but I'm not. So, like even if I'm tired, everyone's tired.
Yeah.
But show up anyway with the biggest smile. And that's just
leading by example at that point, right?
Yeah. And people will be like, "Hey, you were so busy. Why is she smiling?
Why is she putting in the extra effort?
Why is she putting in the extra effort?" It's just
You don't get paid enough to do this. Why are you doing it, right? And here's the other thing too. It's like you can easily tell the people, for example, who work just to work and who actually want to come into work, right? And I think building a positive environment where people actually want to come into work it's a big thing as well. Not only for you, because it creates an environment where, hey, everyone, let's try to be our best. Everyone like hey, let's actually come into work because I like to work, or this person's working, so it's fun in a sense, right? How do you create an environment where people want to actually show up, not only just for you but for themselves as well, and create an environment where it's fun, positive, something that they like to actually do?
I guess giving them more recognition, even if it's like the smallest thing, because earlier we said that everyone learns differently or do things differently. So what if like my 50% is someone else's 110%, right? Like, yeah, it's they're even if the result that they want to that they did is not the best, you have to still give them the A for effort,
Yeah.
right? Because it matters. Like, hey, you putting that water down on a table, you were probably nervous, but hey, you did it. Right? You did it. And good job. I'm proud of you. Now do it for the rest of the tables. So
No. Acknowledgement is actually a big thing. I think a lot of people also like sleep on too. Is like people like to be acknowledged.
they definitely do. And it's that little like, oh yeah, like my manager knows
That I'm
that
putting
I
in the
did
work,
this, I
right?
put in the work, I should do more of it. Right? But it's also up to the managers to stay consistent. But you can't just keep giving everyone like
Gold stars for doing bare minimum.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to like pick and choose.
Oh.
Which one is worth it?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Right? But you also gotta make sure that like the staff is more of like if you really see that they're struggling on doing something and they put so much effort in, then that's when you like, hey, good job. So, but if it's like something that they can do easily, you're okay.
Under acknowledgement is definitely a very, very, very key thing that a lot of people overlook, I would say, in terms of not just management or leadership, but like in life. Like sometimes people just need a reminder that, hey, they're on the right track, or hey, you're doing good. I see the effort you're putting in, because through experience, not being acknowledged for the work you do over a long period of time, it's demoralizing. And it's like, why am I doing the work if at the end of the day it's not even not worth it? But what am I doing this for? Or there's no real goal to do it, rather than just I come in, show up just to get paid for my job, right? People want to be acknowledged because they also want to make it seem like their efforts mean something, or like you're not taking them for granted in any situation, right?
Like as a leader, whenever I see someone who who's showing those sign of like, oh yeah, they're not acknowledging my efforts, my contribution, I'm gonna leave, whatever. Like, hey, I'm not stopping you, but for me, I just want them to work on the skills that they need before they leave the company. Do you know what I'm saying?
Elaborate a little bit.
Like, not even skills that they need to work on. It's more of like skills that they also gained
Okay.
while being with us. And whenever some people leave, they always ask me, Char, like, what should I do? I don't know if I should leave. And I'm like, hey, that's up to you. whatever you learned here, just make sure to apply it elsewhere, right? Just don't disregard the effort that I put into your growth and development. Like, yeah, of course, maybe like I didn't recognize you enough, or maybe there's no longer that challenge happening in the work environment or the workplace, or like maybe all the positions are filled and there's literally no growth. Hey, like, I'm sorry, but don't forget that you learned how to handle things under pressure. You know how to manage your time, how to multitask, all this and this and this. Just apply it wherever you go, right? And just make sure that, oh yeah, Char said this once. And then, just move on from there.
It's a learning experience. Everything is a learning experience.
Yes.
I heard a quote once from Alex Hormozy. I don't know if you know who that is.
Nope.
But he said once is, don't think of a job as in you just working a job to make money. Think of a job as a learning experience where you can get paid to learn. And I think a lot of people just think of a job as, oh, I'm just going to do what they tell me so then I can get a paycheck to buy the next thing, live, pay for rent, etc. What they actually don't as well think of is as, I can get paid, but I can also be learning something at this job, right? Because if you frame your mindset differently, where it's now you're learning, now like I want to go into work, how do I face these challenges differently, and I get paid, I think that would make a way more positive mindset, where it's like I just come in just to make money. And you can see the difference between people who are just there for the money and people who actually want to work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. And some people don't understand how valuable experience is. Like, hey, it's free. It's free.
Yeah.
Getting to learn how to serve, how to make drinks, how to like clean dishes. Hey, some people out there don't know how to do dishes. I'm just saying, or mopping or sweeping. So, and sometimes too, like it's funny. I have to teach people common sense. No, it's true. Like, common sense is not common at all.
Yeah.
And that's also like a skill that people need to learn. It can be in their workplace too, right? So, but people just don't understand how valuable experience is and what they can get from in their workplace.
And sometimes being told what to do on things you don't know how to do or don't want to do is putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, where that's where growth is. That's where you learn, is when you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, right? And I feel like people are too comfortable being comfortable, if that makes sense. People are too comfortable doing the same thing, being at the same level.
Yeah, people are too comfortable. I actually enjoy, as sad as it is, being in an uncomfortable position. Because, yeah, you're right. This is where you grow as an individual. And, even like working in a restaurant, being in an uncomfortable situation every single day is challenging. The hardship, this blood and sweat. But that's where you grow and thrive.
It builds character, builds who you are.
My favorite word is like the skill, I would say, is adaptability.
Okay.
And I remember when I asked you about like what skills do you think a supervisor should have, and then you said resilience. And then we kept on adding on to it.
I said resilience?
Resilience. You said resilience. And I said, oh, well, perseverance is good too. Adaptability is good too. Because like, when you have, when you're able to adapt in certain situations, like for example, the store is burning.
Yeah.
How are you going to adapt? Right? When it comes to adaptability, you need to accept change. Because some people are so scared when change happens because they're uncomfortable. This is the quote. Train your mind to see good in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've embodied that, any situation that comes your way, be it good, bad, hard, everyone's quitting, everyone's quitting.
Oh my God.
At least you know that at the end of the day, you'll be okay. And now you know how to handle it for the next one because you've adapted to it.
Yeah, makes
right?
sense. You said I said resilience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. I'm remembering now. You know why I said resilience?
Why?
It's because I know at the end of the day, there's people who's gonna hate me or love me. More hate more than love, but having that resilience to do my job or lead, even if people don't like me, is I think why I said resilience. Because you need to be resilient in order to, quote unquote, stay in the game or to stay at that level, right? Here's a quote about leadership that I'll never forget. No matter what, if people love you or hate you, always give them a reason to respect you at the end of the day. And that's one thing I try to live by. It's, I don't care if you like me or hate me. I'm just being honest. I don't care if you like me or hate me, but I will always give that person a reason to respect me because I know that I put in that work in order to show up, in order to be that example, in order to be respected, right? And I think a lot of leaders need to accept the fact that not everyone's going to like you, and it's okay if not everyone likes you. You just find your own group, but always give them a reason to respect you.
Yeah.
Backstory time.
Okay.
Backstory time. Charlotte actually used to be my manager. So when I first became a supervisor and putting in this new role position, I learned that, number one, you have to think very differently and you can't be selfish. You have to be selfless as a leader, right? Number two is that leveling up in a role, in a company, in life, just means more responsibilities. So you just have to learn how to handle hard better. And number three, like I said before, not everyone will like you. At the end of the day, you just have to do what you can, do what you're best at, be competent enough to, quote unquote, get the job done with the best intentions, of course. But understand that not everyone will like you. A big learning curve I had to self-reflect on. And there was many long nights after my shift where I was like, what am I doing? Am I doing things right? Why do people hate me? Do people like me? Am I doing a good job? Right? So in my early days of supervising, I just wanted to get the job done, and I didn't care much about building relationships with my coworkers and staff. Right? But then once I realized, hey, like having influences others is actually building relationship with others to inspire them to be better. Mm-hmm. Right? But I think there's a fine balance between helping others versus doing everything for them, for example.
I remember an example.
What's your example?
During the time when Vincent was doing his training, he was running around left to right, doing everything for everybody. And I come in there and I said, hold up. Stop what you're doing. Just stand here and don't do anything. And this guy was just like, he's like, are you sure? Like, what about this? What about, no, just look, who needs help? Do you really need to step in over there? Yeah. No, you don't. They're okay. What about this? Do they need help? Yeah. No, they don't. You need to just relax.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Because it's running around every station, the kitchen, the dish, server, everywhere. And I was like, relax. just be calm. Yes, everything is going downhill. I'm sorry, but if you're panicking, if you're everywhere, you're being sporadic, your team can feel it. And when they see a supervisor stress, oh, they're stressed.
I'll never forget that day. Actually, that's very funny. It's hard though, because
It is hard.
I thought once you level up, that you just have to be better or be the best at what you do. That's why you move up. But you taught me that it's okay not to be the best because you have other people around you who will help you.
Yeah, and that's when delegation comes to play.
Speak to me about delegation.
Delegation is an important skill to have, just because, yeah, like, not a lot of people understand how much responsibility supervisors have on their plate, because, like, as a regular employee's perspective, oh, supervisors just there standing around. They're just chatting, they're just on their phone. But little do they know, like, hey, this supervisor came in 30 minutes before you, did the things that they need to do, be it like prep work, organizing deliveries, doing the laundry, or just making sure that everything is prepared for the first staff that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But with delegation, supervisors or like leaders in general need to learn how to divide those responsibilities evenly to their team, so that they can focus on the important things. When it comes to restaurant management in general, when you're delegating, like, I don't know, hey, staff A, make sure that these preps are done, right? Now, the supervisor on duty can just do other things, maybe interviews or training another staff, right? At least they have that, like, they can use that, like, that time to focus on the important stuff.
Or stuff that they can only do.
Exactly, right? Another thing with delegation is to understand that delegation is also a way to build trust to your staff or your team. Like, hey, this is my responsibility, but I know you can do it too. So I'm putting this trust to you because I know you're capable and you can get it done.
Oh, that's one way to look at it, yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's definitely one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. I want to thank you for your time, first of all, Char. Final 2 questions for you. If you can go back in time to when you first became a supervisor, to a manager, to now a regional manager, what would be one piece of advice you would give your younger self that you know today?
I've mentioned this before. It's to see good in every situation. Just because, yeah, it's hard right now. It's tough. But at the end of the day, you won't remember it. Like, once you've overcome something difficult, you just move on, right? And not a lot of people have that mindset. And sometimes when they overthink about the bad experiences that they've, like, gone through, it holds them back to becoming even better. So, if you experience something bad, don't even think about it tomorrow, because once you've like passed it, you just laugh at it. Like you, right? All those experiences, we're just laughing at it now.
Those were fun days, though. It's funny how the hardest and the dark, not the darkest times.
It is the darkest time.
I mean, it was a pretty dark time, but you can look back at the end of the day and know that it was a good time.
It was a good time, and hey, you survived. Did you die? No, you didn't. You survived.
Thankfully. Gratefully. Final question for you, Charlotte. What type of person or what type of leader do you want to be remembered as?
I want to be remembered as someone who believe in people's potential, because everyone does things differently. They learn differently, and for me, I will work with you however way you want me to work, right? Because, like, for example, everyone holds pencils differently. It's true. Everyone holds pencils differently, but now the hardest part is, not the hardest part, the challenging part is teaching them how to write. Right? Because everyone holds it differently. So now, I won't give up on you. I won't give up on you for sure. But if you still have that spark in your eyes, I will keep pushing you to be better. But if I notice that spark is dimming and you're giving up, hey, I respect your wish. And I aim to inspire and help others see what they can achieve.
Charlotte, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I just want to add, don't be afraid to be in a situation where you feel uncomfortable. Take it as a challenge. Go through it, learn from it, and if you made a mistake, that's okay. Just, reflect, learn from it, and do it better. That's it. And then after this podcast, I'm going to be reflecting.
To those who have tuned in and stayed to the very end, we appreciate you for listening in today, and we hope that you learned something new. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't seen last week's episode, be sure to check it out as we talk about finance and money. Otherwise, until then, my friends, take care.